Welcome back to My Dad Watches The Bachelor. I'm Meredith, and I'm here with my co-host, my dad.
Good morning, Meredith. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I got to tell you, I'm a little irritable in that I found last night's Women Tell All Bachelor not the best investment of my time.
Oh, for sure. I put as a low a waste of 2 hours of my life. Not that I have a lot of important things going on from 8 to 10 on Monday night, but I don't think I really needed what they gave me.
Well, if you like ladies fighting and settling scores and going on Chris Harrison's hot seat to revisit why they were sent home, great show. But that's not really my cup of tea either.
Yeah, I didn't really need to see the replays of everyone's love story and eventual heartbreak with Matt. I have not only watched it, but also podcasted about it. So it's very fresh in my mind. I know what happened here, and I imagine most viewers do too. It was just sometimes they throw in the women or men tell all and do like an hour of it, and then they do an hour of an actual episode. And I think that would have been much more appropriate in this situation. But
I agree. I agree, and I must say, I struggled to find highlights.
well, before we get into any highlights, we need to talk about the Bachelor news that's been going on this past week. So we know that Chris Harrison had an inappropriate interview with Rachel Lindsay and has since stepped aside from hosting After the Final Rose. And ABC has announced that Emmanuel Acho has been chosen to be the host for After the Final Rose this season. So we both saw this tweet, and I wasn't super familiar with him. You asked me who he was, so I've done some research so that you and I and all of our listeners can know who Emmanuel Acho is. So he's a best-selling author and host of the online series Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, which serves to spark meaningful dialogue around racial ignorance, which seems very appropriate for what Bachelor Nation's been going through recently. He started his show in June of 2020, right after all of the George Floyd murder and all of the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening last year, and it has over 80 million views. He's a former linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles and is an analyst for Fox Sports and the co-host of Speak for Yourself. So ABC saying Emmanuel's going to sit down with Matt, Bree, Rachel, and Michelle during the show to discuss the finale and current events that are going on within Bachelor Nation. So I think this is a good choice from ABC. He has experience hosting shows and obviously talking about race, which is what the conversation needs to be about. So I'm excited. I'm expecting he's going to encourage some really interesting and important conversations. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Well, I appreciate the update. I saw the announcement as well, and I was not familiar with him or his background. And uh, it'll be interesting to see and how they bring the whole Chris Harrison situation into the conversation and see where things go. And I hope that Chris Harrison's rehabilitated and can be a part of this show in some way in the future. That I guess all remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think it's important that Chris takes a step back, but I also think it would have been appropriate for Chris to be interviewed on After the Final Rose. Let him and Emmanuel have a conversation about his interview with Rachel Lindsay. I think that would have been interesting to see, but I don't imagine that we're going to get that.
Well, I assume that show is not taped yet. I mean, they usually do it live.
Yes,
So
they usually do it live, but they're not.
You can throw that suggestion out. You can throw that suggestion out to the good people at The Bachelor. I think that's a good suggestion.
Well, they're not doing it live this year. I've read that they're taping it sometime this week. And it's the first time in multiple years that it won't be a live show. I'm guessing it's just because, they're probably trying to do it to protect themselves a little bit in case someone says something inappropriate again. It can be cut out rather than be aired.
Well, and when I say live, I'm not suggesting they necessarily are going to do it in front of a big audience, because that just doesn't happen at this time. It's just hasn't happened yet. So who knows what direction that might go? Maybe Chris Harrison will have a part of it. Who knows?
Yeah. And some sadder news from Bachelor Nation. Rachel Lindsay the woman that interviewed Chris Harrison, our first Black lead, she has deleted her Instagram account because of all of the hate and bullying she's gotten, people blaming her for trying to steal Chris's job and saying she was the problem with that interview and that she was instigating him and trying to get him to say all these bad things. And so she has deleted her Instagram, and I think it should go without being said, but Rachel didn't do anything wrong in that conversation. She was interviewing someone, and Chris had his own shovel and dug his own grave. So leave Rachel alone.
I listened to a portion of that interview, and it seemed to me that she was just letting him talk, and that's very unfortunate. So I'm sorry to hear that. When you said that there was bad news, I feared that you were going to share that Claire and Dale broke up again. So knock on wood, hopefully that they're still together.
Yeah, that would have been a good guess, I think. I haven't heard anything, but it wouldn't be surprising if they were taking a break again. I feel like Claire and Dale could be our modern day Ross and Rachel.
A good analogy.
Thank you. All right, so I don't know how much we really have to say about the Women Tell All, but let's try and see what we can get out of it. So what are your highs from last night's show?
So, my first high is the new Matt James beard. I'm very impressed. It's got a great sheen to it. It's an impressive beard. Makes me think of the basketball player James Harden. As a person that has a beard on occasion, thumbs up to the Matt James beard.
I thought his beard made him look a little bald up top. I did not think it was the best look, personally. I liked all the women laughing at it, though.
Well, I guess it's a generational issue there, and that, or maybe it's a gender issue, and that just respect for someone that can grow a beard like that.
Okay. Well, one of my highs was that we got to see Abigail again. We love Abigail here on My Dad Watches The Bachelor, and we got to listen to her talk about her experiences being deaf, and how with the deaf community it's usually black and white, and she kind of lives in this gray area because she can hear and communicate vocally. She doesn't need to use sign language, and so she was really getting to use the show as a platform to bring awareness to the deaf community, and especially like that gray area she lives in. So I thought it was really sweet, and like Chris Harrison getting to show Abigail a lot of supportive tweets that people were sending about her. I thought that was very sweet.
Hey, she's the best. She deserves better than this show. So double thumbs up for Abigail. She's got to be the fan favorite.
I would think so. Mm-hmm. Some of my other highs were getting to see some of the dates that got cut out that we didn't get to see. Not like specifically what was going on during the dates, but like seeing Victoria cheating in the pancake and beer contest, or her just like dumping her beer on the ground, tossing pancakes over her shoulders, and she's like, there are no rules in this contest, and someone's like, well, the rule is you have to eat it and drink it, but that's fine. And then we also get to see all the women take shots of raw egg, and I respected Kit's shot over the shoulder move. I think I personally have been there where you just pretend you're taking a shot and you throw it over your shoulder, and people just don't really realize. And I think that's a good time to use that move. Someone's trying to make you take a shot of raw egg.
Yeah, I think if you're when you say taking a shot, I assume you're not taking a shot of raw egg. I think if you're throwing a shot of whiskey over your shoulder, that's a little bit different than the evidence is a lot more difficult to find than throwing a raw egg over your shoulder. Someone can say, "Hey, there's your raw egg over there." So that's it's a little bit more challenging. But I I was amused by some of those outtakes and I the what's in the box that was amusing and I like the pancake eating and beer swelling that seemed a little bit funny. Yeah.
I put the what's in the box as a low because I'm not really gonna be digging around in a box of bugs and worms looking for a ring. I just don't think that any piece of jewelry or any man that it's associated with is worth that type of torture.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for cheap laughs, so that's me. That's okay.
My last high is the montage video of Matt kissing with his eyes open and the woman giving him shit for it and Matt explaining to us that he didn't realize it was a no to kiss with your eyes open. He just thought there's this beautiful woman right in front of me, like I just want to look at her. And I don't know, I feel like Matt would be an experienced guy. Like he's very attractive. I'm sure he was, well sought after when he was at Wake Forest, when he was in New York. Like I feel like he's probably had plenty of experiences with women, and that no one has ever called him out on it before seems surprising to me.
Well, you had brought this up in previous podcasts, and honestly, I hadn't really noticed it until they did their montage last night. And I got to say, it did seem a bit freaky the way he was kissing. So and they showed us some of the highlights where he said he's been kissing since the seventh grade. So you would have thought he would have figured that part of it out by now. So but he seems open to learning. So hopefully, as he progresses with his new love, whoever that might be, as he becomes engaged in the next couple of weeks and lives happily ever after, hopefully he'll have learned how to kiss appropriately. Way to go,
Yeah,
Matt.
yeah. Here, The Bachelor, it's all about learning and growing from your mistakes, whether it be racism or kissing with your eyes open. Who's to say? But we like to learn and grow here.
Yeah, that's what all the psychos that were on the show last night would tell you to believe. Yes, I question whether they actually have, but that's what they were saying.
Do you have any other highs?
So, I'll throw a couple of things out there. Just I don't know if they're highs, I don't know if they're lows, but just a couple of things that I noticed during the show. They replayed the Anna Brittany situation, and Anna made a pretty ugly, awful mistake in tarring Brittany as potentially an escort, and I thought that she owned it and she tried to make a sincere apology. Perhaps that genie's out of the bottle and it's too late, but at least I thought that she didn't shy away from the mistake. I thought she admitted it, and I appreciated that. Maybe I've been watching too much in politics where anyone actually making a true apology never seems to happen, and it seems like she actually tried to make an apology. So she made a bad mistake. She admitted it. Hopefully, we can move forward. And at one point, I don't even necessarily remember the context, but when Matt was out there talking with Chris Harrison, he said something to the effect of, "You have to be accountable for your actions." And I just found that to be somewhat prophetic based on the whole Chris Harrison situation. So that sort of caught my attention.
Yeah, I put as a low how much Chris Harrison we got last night. Like I know he was hosting the show and it would be very hard to edit him out much since he was asking all the questions, but it did feel uncomfortable knowing like the timeline of when the Women's Tell All was recorded and how long after he had this interview with Rachel. Was it a week? Was it two? And just knowing the train wreck that was about to become his life. It all felt a little weird knowing what's going on now and watching him act like everything's normal and being like, I don't know, just talking to the woman being like, oh, we're all growing here and blah blah blah, and it just seemed a little phony now knowing what's going on.
Chris Harrison, phony? That's blasphemy. Come on.
I know you used to be a big Chris Harrison fan. He was your favorite character of the show.
He was when we were at the La Quinta or wherever we were. I thought he was more fun there, and they put him into some interesting situations. It seems to me that whenever we have this particular episode of the season, I realize that I really don't like Chris Harrison because I guess it's part of his job, and just putting his current situation aside, the way he brings up the young ladies and puts them on the hot seat, and they have to relive all this agony of the way they broke up, and I really didn't like the way he sort of put it to Serena of saying, "Oh, I thought you were the one," and sort of seemed to do what he could to make her feel worse than maybe she was feeling.
Yeah, I think that he's been doing that for a while.
Yeah, I think if we went back and watched any of these episodes, I probably would have a similar reaction.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have any lows, or were you just kind of throwing out things you noticed?
Well, for a low, the whole way the Victoria thing was dealt with to me was a low because to me either Victoria, if you watch the show, she comes off as a total psycho that it truly seems to need some professional care. She seems to have issues more so than anyone I can recall being on this program. And they touched on it last night. Some of the girls even seemed to defend her a little bit, which surprised me. But either they edited the show as it went to make her look a lot worse than she actually was, or they just went really easy on that last night. And I think they were going easier on that. I think she should be getting treatment somewhere, not back on a television show.
So my hot take might be controversial. I quite enjoy watching Victoria on my television. I think that she is high quality entertainment. Maybe not high quality, but definitely entertainment. I think like Anna's rumor about Brittany being an escort, like that's at a different level to me than like Victoria's snide remarks. And like she just lives in a land of delusion, so it just seems more fun to me. And I feel like she's pretty harmless. She thinks that she's a queen. Whatever. She doesn't see how Matt could marry anyone other than her. Like, obviously, she's got some stuff going on upstairs. But it's just, yes, she probably does need mental health help. But I'm a big fan of Victoria, and I quite hope to see her in Paradise.
I don't know what to tell you. I think, I guess it makes for interesting television, sort of like when people watch NASCAR races and pull for big accidents and like to see cars flipping all over a track.
That's the only good part about NASCAR.
Yes, until somebody gets hurt. But I was very surprised that Matt said nicer things about her and said that he thought that maybe he had dropped the ball on their relationship. Come on, Matt. I guess you're trying to be nice to people, but there was not going to be a relationship there. She's if Claire's an 8 on the crazy train, Victoria's a 15. Yeah, so you're that's not happening.
So you're not Team Victoria for Bachelorette?
No, I think that would be a disaster with wonderful ratings.
I think that would be the most entertaining season of The Bachelorette ever.
I think that show would probably last 3 episodes before it went off the rails and they had to bring someone else in.
Well, that's normal now. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've gone through the highs and lows. We kind of touched on this a little bit. My right reason, I think Brittany handled herself really well last night when discussing the rumor against her that she was an escort. She spoke very eloquently and even took the high road and said she doesn't want Anna's life to be destroyed because of something she said. And I thought it was very mature. And, we didn't get a ton of Brittany this season, but I feel bad for her that, she says if you Google her name, the first 20 hits that come up are going to be like Bachelor contestant accused of being an escort. And that's going to be something that is stuck with her name for a really long time. And even though all that's happening, she handled the situation very gracefully.
Well, I think that's fair. I think that's a good comment, and I thought she did handle herself very well. And as I said, I thought Anna did what she could to apologize and own that issue. So I think that's a fair choice. If when I thought about right reason, I'd gone back to Abigail in that to me she was. I just wrote down still the nicest, most likable person I've ever seen on this show. Probably the only woman on the show that the other women don't hate. I think everyone, as she was talking, all the people, including the other women, were just looking at her saying, gosh, what a nice person, and appreciating her. So go Abigail.
Go Abigail. We love Abigail here. My wrong reason is a bit different. You've been saying that you think that Anna really handled herself well, just kind of took the apology in stride, which I agree with. But I think, Brittany said that Anna had all of this time since the show recorded, since it's been airing, like their episode aired where Anna made the accusation that Brittany's an escort, and Anna never reached out to apologize. The first time they had that discussion was at the Women Tell All. And so I think that was a little shady. That wasn't handled well. I will give Anna credit for the apology that she made. I think that it isn't often that we see someone just be like, yeah, I messed up. I'm really sorry about that, and doesn't make any excuses. I think there were a lot of excuses being made last night, but Anna didn't have any. So I'll give her that. But I think that it's a bit questionable that she didn't reach out before the Women Tell All. So she's my wrong reason.
Yeah, I can see where I can see where you go there. It's sort of like at a trial where someone's already been convicted of doing something awful and then gets up at the very end and apologizes. And maybe it's a sincere apology, but you did the crime. You're going to have to do the time, and that doesn't get you off the hook. So I respect the fact that she went on national TV, owned it, but she's still guilty of doing something that was pretty bad. And you're right. I don't know how these people might be communicating after this show goes. I don't get the sense that they're best buddies in a big text chain. But if she wanted to, I suspect she could have found her.
Yeah, I think so.
So my wrong reason was Serena P, who in a couple of things when she came back, she was the one that I guess she went on the hometown date, Final Four, and she was the one that told Matt that Matt was not the right person. And so a couple of things there. It bugged me that Chris Harrison was pushing this. I thought you were the one, and making her feel bad. And I'm just thinking, don't you remember the yoga sex date? She was totally uncomfortable with that. Come on, Chris. Are we watching the same show here? And then I sort of felt that Serena was blaming her family a bit for the way the whole thing unfolded, and that she was looking for reassurance from her family that Matt was the right guy. Didn't get it. that made, maybe as a parent, maybe that made me a little, hey, what are you talking about? This is your decision. You're a grown up. You need to make these decisions. You'll get our input. And then finally, I got a chuckle when Serena said that she was worried about hurting Matt. And I just thought, I don't think he's going to be thinking about you when he's spending the night with 3 different girls in next week's episode. I think you're going to be pretty out of his mind, Serena. So sorry, Serena, you're my wrong reason this week.
Well, I completely disagree with that. I think that's a bad call. I think that your family can definitely make or break a relationship. If I brought a guy home that I really liked and you and mom were like, I'm not so sure about him, that would definitely make me question things, get in my head about it. And if I went home with a guy and met their family and didn't like their family, that would make me think, not really sure if I want to be part of this and have you as in-laws. I think that's a very fair thing. And I think we've all been in a situation where we know a relationship's not going to work and we just feel bad about hurting the person we care about, even though they're not our person. So I think that everything Serena said was very valid, and I completely disagree with your call here.
Well, I appreciate that you'll accept your parents' input, but if and when you decide to end a relationship, I hope that it'll be your decision and you're not going to blame your parents for it.
No, we'll see what happens. No promises.
Okay.
All right, MVP time. This was a tough one. I'm giving it to Matt's beard simply because I debated putting this as a low, but if I put it as a low, then there would not have been an MVP this episode because it's just not a great 2 hours. But, Matt came out rocking the new beard and said that he grew it because he came out of the experience a lot wiser. Gave me a chuckle, and we talked about it already, the girls laughing at it, and he just looked a little silly with it to me. So whatever, Matt's beard MVP.
Does Matt's beard have its own Twitter account yet?
No, but we could work on that.
It's probably already done. I don't know. People move pretty quickly on these things from what I can gather. So.
All right. Well, you have some fatherly advice to wrap us up.
I really struggled to come up with fatherly advice, but a couple things I did write down. Number one, and this was before you mentioned the Rachel Lindsay backlash, but I just said, hey, people, let's be reasonable. No bullying, no body shaming, no death threats. If you're going to put this crap on social media, it's going to follow you to your future jobs, to your future relationships. Let's tone it down a little bit. In that some of the ladies on the show made it sound like they were getting some pretty awful stuff on social media. So we need to tone it down. And if you're going to watch The Bachelor show, you can really avoid watching this particular episode. It's 2 hours of your life that you're not going to be able to get back. So I would strongly urge you to take up a hobby, do something else, read a book, do something, but you don't need to watch this particular episode. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, you can tell we're a little short on things to say this week, but we made it through. I'm proud of us, and we've got 2 more weeks left of Matt's season. So join us next week as we discuss the fantasy suites from the right perspective and my dad's.